that is as at the time this thing happened. I hope that there is a register of all people who had access and were on site as at the time this happened, because insurance, you need to pay compensation to some people. Now, the bit of it that worries me is this. In all of this, we have not said that we have not had anything from the company for Ikoyi itself. Granted that the managing director was in that building, they have not found him as of yet. Okay, so if the company exists, does it have structure in place to make statements of its own that this is our building, this is what has happened, to provide information as to what has happened, correct information, so that we're not second guessing, we're not picking information from wrong places. The government is now the one giving information that the company should ordinarily be giving to us. Okay, so, and the government is not doing a good job of it, because it's like they are putting themselves on the defensive.
Yeah, but the thing is, yes, you identify the primary responsibilities of the company, but the government also owes its responsibility to the citizens first.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm saying the primary responsibility of giving information as to what happened in that place is to come from the company itself. We're the owner of the building. This is what we did. This is what happened. Now, the only thing we are hearing is that there was a fault. The company should be able to give us, okay, the fault happened. What happened? We know that there was a fault. This is what we were trying to do, and this is how this has happened. For you people that your relatives are in there, we are working with government to get everybody out as soon as possible. Those ones that survived, they're in so hospital, we are paying their, those kind of information. There should be a
so
com center, something,
information.
information, so that we're not second guessing, we are not ending up with
Do you
false
think-
news about things like this.
Do you think their lawyers would have asked them not to speak yet? Because in a number of things, as you would assume, some people might bring up legal charges against them, and what they say can be used against them. That's one. Sorry. Then number two is that, and just like who's this now? Someone has said, Ike Peter has said that.
You say I don't agree with the analyst that the DJ of the building in Lagos should have been fired. Suspension is in place pending the outcome of investigation.
Because investigations are still ongoing. Don't forget that the first priority of the government and the organization will be trying to get as many people out alive as possible. They say that there are approximately 50 people in there. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, very good point in terms of, do we have a register of people who are in the building? It doesn't look like it. They don't know. We haven't gotten a definite number or names of people who are trapped in the building.
Okay, so like I said, so those are, for me, for the lawyer part, if I would assume that the lawyer should actually be sitting with them to craft a communicate that will take care of all these concerns that you have raised. They should, so it's very important that when these kind of things happen, there should be constant information flow from everybody involved, including the company itself. Okay, so that's another thing. Another thing that I also expressed concern about is, if a company that has this kind of huge portfolio, if this can happen to it, so what then happens to all the other smaller organizations? This company, for me, with what we have seen so far now nobody's speaking for the company. It means that it appears that it's just a one-man business, as it were. So what structure did he put in place to ensure continuity of the business? So that's now the loss for investors in the business now, because their investments has died or is missing right now with the proproprietor.
The first priority really should be saving lives.
Yes, I agree with you that. So I'm just taking it next steps.
All right. Thank you.
Fabian from Ekpa, thank you. Fabian from Ekpa sent in this message. This is concerning the building collapse. There are conflicting reports coming regarding the number of floors granted to be built, quality of the materials people feel, etc. The primary responsibility actually should come from the government, who should be clear and bring out continuous information.
All right, let's move on to our next story, Divo. And I know this is one that you will be passionate about. I just ask that you keep your passion to about Malami, Femi Adesina, Lord Buhari government over press freedom. Premium Times. Amid growing concerns over the safety of Nigerian journalists, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has praised the President, Muhammadu Buhari-led administration for providing an enabling environment for journalism to thrive. He said this yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about it. It's been the
International Day.
Yes.
To press for the rights of citizens, of journalists, really,
Impunity
and
to
impunity. Yeah,
to speak against impunity of journalists.
yeah, exactly.
Well, they said that that the president has done really well, and he has ensured a thriving, in their words, environment for journalists. What do you think of this, Divo? Would you align with the statement of the Attorney General of the Federation?
Our most handsome Attorney General, Malami.
What has his
Most handsome.
handsomeness got to do
Yes,
with this
and
story?
most maverick Attorney General, Malami. I would have actually thought that you would have encouraged the passion being in the media,
I love the
because
passion.
you
I'm
see,
glad you're taking
this
this.
issue, it actually requires critical review because, in the first place, as the Attorney General was speaking at this policy dialogue, okay, he literally and unquote praised his own administration. Okay, you see, in such critical matters, you cannot praise yourself. You cannot look at the mirror and dispute the reflection. I repeat myself. You cannot look at the mirror and dispute the reflection.
Devo, do you really believe politicians have mirrors?
Of course they do. We the people. That's the whole point. They should listen and open their ears and hear. Now, what happened was that he was saying that under this administration, that's the Muhammad Buhari administration, that there had been an enabling environment for journalism to thrive. Now, as with everything that comes from politicians, we need to subject this to some review, critical review. Now, what are the citizens saying? What are the media saying? Can citizens actually align with this, that there has been thriving press freedom within the country? Now, and a few pointers, because the way this article was written, it was just simply what they said and then the facts being laid by the side. 3 weeks ago, Todi Salim of Vanguard was declared missing in Abuja, all right? Till date. Now, the media was also barred from covering the Namdu Kanu case, which was not a military case, because if it was a military case, we would say, okay, national security, as again, trumps the Constitution. That's another issue. However, they were barred from covering the matter, and this is just one out of many cases that the media is always barred from covering. Two, there was harassment and arrest of the media during the Lekki toll gates as the NSARS anniversary, as well as the first time it happened in October 2020. Now, the what do you call it? Now, at this dialogue, what he said was that the media or the journalists were not being targeted, that the journalism was a noble profession, neither were they being witch-hunted by this administration. He only acknowledged one instance where a Punch journalist was harassed over his publication on the president's medical trip some time ago. Now, what he did mention was that the media should carry on. Now, the truth is, he said his statement, it's our turn as Nigerians and law-abiding citizens to ensure that we empower the fourth estate.
Yeah.
You cannot have accountability or good governance anywhere in this world without a robust media. Why? Because information is everything. The capital of the future is data. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, when you prevent it from happening, when you tell people who are given, like, for example, a simple litmus test is, do security forces respect the press logo? When you come into an instance and you say you're a member of the press, do they respect
I
that?
used to. I've noticed that my the logo or stick on my card.
Let me
doesn't-
let's do some moonwalking. Let's scale back a bit down memory lane during the lockdown. Can you remember during the lockdown
Yes.
when Nigeria was, and like every other country, was in a pandemonium over what actions to take around the pandemic? Was it lethal? Was it deadly? Not too much information was available. At that point, you'd have expected the government to have allowed those members of the fourth estate journalists who carry information from here to there to move freely. Now, not only were journalists harassed and attacked, even frontline workers like the medical doctors. Remember,
Yes.
some of them were being turned back even during the lockdown, even upon presentation of ID cards, presentation of stethoscopes. You don't get stethoscopes off the shelf. Yet you look at someone with a stethoscope and tell him, my friend, go back, because it's not your own brother that is suffering from a certain sickness. So this government, instead of whitewashing or trying to, as they say now, wash, do your best to create this enabling environment. It's the same environment that will even help your administration have a sustainable legacy.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Raid on Justice Odili's house impunity taken too far, says Supreme Court. Talking about the fourth estate, let's talk about the third arm of the government, which is the judiciary. Lakunle. The Supreme Court yesterday said the raid on the Abuja residence of Justice Mary Peter Odili, a justice of the Apex Court and next in line to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, was impunity taken too far. They released this in a statement by its Director of Information, Dr. Festus Akonde, and he warned that the judiciary should not be misconstrued by anyone or institution of government as the weeping child among the arms of government. Also noteworthy is that the body of senior advocates of Nigeria yesterday met with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN, and he said again, he reiterated the fact that he was not aware and was even willing to present himself for investigation if need be. Lakune, what do you think of this? I mean, they're talking tough here. Do you think it's enough? What can the body of the SANs do? What can the Supreme Court do? What options are available to them, if any?
Two quick things I first want to say. You remember this popular saying about when they came for the Jews, I did not speak because I was not one of them, and when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak for me. I think that this is a typical example of that. We've had instances when possibly junior law officers, lawyers, members of the bench have been harassed by police, by security agencies all over the place. Nobody as a group, or we have not had those kind of warnings from the judiciary as a third arm of government. Say, hey, look, stop harassing the membership of this third arm.
Yeah.
And now it has gone to the highest body of this third arm of government. Now they are speaking. I read a little part of the statement by the Director of Information of the Supreme Court, and in fairness to me, however I may have written it, it sounded more like a statement a politician would write. You know, all those ones, disclaimer, I would have ignored, but for blah 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 and the rest of it. I mean, so that's just for the comments about it. But we all know that this is something that should never happen. The judiciary itself left itself open for this to happen.
How?
For example, let's start from the state government. It is the state governor at his own whims and caprice that will decide when they buy new cars for the judges in the states, for example, and then the judges will line up to receive cars from them.
Yeah,
so things like that, they've over the time.
That didn't have autonomy,
I'm saying,
and still hasn't.
The constitution says that the funding of the judiciary is a first line deduction. You take it and give them. But do they do that?
So that,
No.
So
that's
how's that a fault of the judiciary?
So that's why we're saying that when you leave yourself open for this kind of things to happen, it will get to this point where we are. They've taken them for, we can do anything we like with them. This is a condemnable act. This arm of government is perhaps more important than even the executive, because that is where you and I will go to when we feel any form of injustice. And when these people don't have the confidence to face us to deliver justice, what do we have? Are we not inviting chaos? This is something that the judiciary itself needs to sit together as a body, as a group, and end this demand for what the constitution says about how the judiciary should be funded, should be run, and government should stay out of their business. You know, but so long as you allow government to stay in your business, you will end up seeing things like condemnable things, like because they will take it for granted, and that's what has happened.
As they always say, he who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Exactly.
So
that's what we are seeing.
If you don't have autonomy, financial autonomy as an entity, you wouldn't really have much to say, to be honest. But we'll have messages to
Chris says it's really sad that someone who had lived in the UK that should ensure excellence came to Nigeria and started cutting corners. I had terrible experience with Lagos State Building Control Agency. All the staff wanted was cutting deals. The culpable officers must be trialed in a court of appropriate jurisdiction.
All right, thank you so much. We have more One here from Christopher. It says the raid on Justice Mary Delee's residence underscores the hypocrisy of the Buhari administration on the independence of the judiciary. Another message from Frank in Baga says, "Good morning, guys. My take on the journalism story is stand back from me." And we have more here. Cisco.
All right, Cisco Delgado says there's nothing like press freedom in Nigeria under this administration.
All right. Christian from Lekki says the vote is going too far. Self. One media house popular among the youth. Twitter is still banned in Nigeria.
True. First and foremost says, let Malami step aside for thorough investigation on the invasion of Justice Odili's residence. He can't claim he doesn't know when every finger points at him as the man in charge.
Mm-hmm. And Tyre says, so who's afraid of a seven justice that unknown security agencies are bold only when my lord isn't around? Nigeria is a good movie script
Quick one.
on ending with intrigue. We actually
We
have
need
very
to
little
move to the
time.
next story.
Yes.
Sorry. Privatization consumers demand review. Or privatization consumers demand review as power generation drops to 3,844 megawatts. That's 3,844 megawatts on the Punch newspaper. Divo, very quickly, this is just a review of how well privatization has worked, especially in the power sector. The 1st of November 2021 made it exactly 8 years that the power sector was officially privatized. And just a review to see, has it worked? Is it better?
Well, let's call this the hashtag stable power challenge. And the people I would want to actually ask whether the power reform is asked were the children that were born in 2021 who are now 8 years old. Have we seen the lights? Now, what has happened? Stakeholders have are opining that again and again the generation in the country dropped. Now, I don't even want to get into the numbers because we've seen this. We've been here over a dozen times. There have been power grid failures ever so frequently, which are not new anymore. So at some point, you kind of get tired reacting because what's the difference? We usually don't have lights. So at what point was it a power failure? Was it lack of distribution? Was it the grid breaking down? And remember, this comes across the three areas of the power sector which have to do with the generation, transmission, and the distribution. They've fallen grossly below expectation, fallen grossly below installed capacity, and fallen grossly below projection. And what we know already is that installed capacity for generation is at almost above 10,000 megawatts. Now, with that installed capacity, how come the transmission only has roughly between 3 to 4,000 megawatts that can pass through transmission? So at the end of the day, you really can't peak steadily at even above 5,000 as they have projected via the distribution. Now, 8 years coming down, remember in the days of UpNEPA and PHCN, privatization took place to be able to uplift the private sector so that we could have what was referred to as reliable and stable electricity. Now, stakeholders are pushing for a review of this liberalization that took place because so many number of things have led to this more or less. Let me also call it a failure because we've been at this position. We haven't really moved. Now, first of all, what was discussed was inadequate investment on behalf of the investors, the valuation that they took place. Some of them complained even till date that they met a lot of things that they didn't see. There were latent potholes like gas and water insufficiency to power the dams, to power the hydro, electrical and gas powered plants, to the issue of tariff and price management. The multi-year tariff order, which was inaugurated long ago, hasn't taken place because of the agitation from citizens not to take on a higher electricity bill as they see it as their own palliative. Now, if you don't increase the bill, because remember, way before now, in the days of NEPA, we were actually paying heavily subsidized electrical bills. Now, when the government took away its investments, meaning the private sector has to carry on, how will they carry on if at the end of the day the citizens do not pay the real price for electricity? Two, you have the irony of the metering challenge, whereby both local and imported, we can't produce meters. What's the problem? Okay, you can't produce them in Nigeria, import them. Why can't it be imported?
It's too expensive, though.
How come
Nigerians
are willing to pay? How come meters can't come into the country? Then you end up having if you have gone through the horror of estimated billing, and then you now have the bitterness that Nigerians have faced till date with the privatization issue. It is a critical factor for economic growth, and I want Nigerians, because this administration is almost than half a year, less than a year and a half out, to remember these things when they go to the polls. That when they come to promise you in their campaigns that I will provide lights, I will provide lights, I'll provide light. You need to start asking how. Are you going to provide lights like the others did? And then we come back another 8 years, that makes 16.
We're bearing the consequences of fundamental failures from generations to come. So the vote won't happen in a day. But just saying. E-Naira is the next topic of conversation from the Punch. CBN plans app for persons without bank accounts. I'm actually curious. That is the chief executive officer of the technical partner of CBN that's making this announcement, saying first that the E-Naira that has been rolled out is only going to be used or accessible by those who own bank accounts. Well, based on the CBN's financial inclusion vision, it says this will meet or bridge that gap in times to come. What are your thoughts regarding this?
Well, I guess obviously that what it is, they started from the easy one, those of us who have bank accounts, and they're headed to those who don't have. I think that the e-naira is here to stay, and like I said the last time when we had a conversation around it, let those of us who want to store our value in e-naira, let us go ahead and do it. Let us share the experiences. Let us see how it will help the economy. At least the biggest one for me in terms of this is the cost of printing paper notes is going to grossly reduce because we are not going to need as many as we do now.
People use it.
So that's why I said those want to let us do it. It helps us to do that. So if we look at it from that perspective alone, we won't go to Malaysia to go and print money anymore. Okay, so and that's a good argument for me anyway. So let's see how it goes. Let's encourage the CBN to roll this out. Let people use it. Let's see how easy it is to do.
Well, here's my question though. Why do you as CBN need to make apps or produce new apps to enable those who are not financially included, who don't have bank accounts, when we already have STEM banks that are providing digital services whereby you can open an account in less than 2 minutes? And if e-naira is already here to stay and e-naira is pegged for use by those who already have existing bank accounts, it goes without saying that if you can open a bank account remotely from anywhere in the world using your biodata and all that, you can as well, have money in e-naira. So why set up a
Remember, I'm sure people have forgotten, the CBN has a strategy called cashless economy, whereby save the money spent on printing and also kind of check inflation, because sometimes you go and buy soap for 500 naira or for 545, and they say I don't have 60 naira change.
You use your card.
Not use your card, just pay 700 naira and walk away. So that's a latent inflation that takes place in almost every instance.
Spot on.
So with this, and since Nigerians are digital savvy with our over 150 million youths, e-naira digital currency will help check a lot of things.
I don't think this is even pointing out to is almost a distractionary attitude or standpoint that CBN is taking. I mean, you're supposed to be a regulator and strengthening the currency. Why going into business models?
No. It's not business. Remember, what I want to say something about what you said, store of value. The e-naira and the naira are the same thing.
Yes.
It's just digital formats.
Right.
So what they're saying is get used to using this. The truth is, it's actually late in the day. We should have been here long ago.
Exactly.
CBN is just warehousing.
Olajumoke is concerned about this. So no more spraying. That's her biggest concern.
You can spray.
You can spray digitally.
Well, guess what? Here's the funny side of it as well. Since Facebook is changing the name to Meta, we're going into the metaverse, and people are using holograms. So how about adopt technology? You can create digital
weddings,
forms.
at weddings now, what you will see is that a sign with the account number. You can shoot,
just
shoot your e-naira.
But that already exists.
when doing this, physical throwing money became a task. People invented the spray gun. So
let me read this comment from Sunday Khan. It says, the judges allowed what is happening to the judiciary. They have the power to down the tools to press on the point. But what do? When judiciary staff goes on strike, they act as though it doesn't concern them because they are well taken care of.
Now the hen has come to roost. Just to mention, these two headlines will be treated inside of Lagos Talks 981 for an extended conversation with you. One from Premium Times. COP26, Nigeria will cut carbon emission to net zero by 2060, Buhari says. And the next one, Lagos shuts Vedic Hospital for engaging unlicensed foreign doctors and nurses. Let's talk in 10 minutes. Special thanks to Lakule70. Why are you giggling? This man. Divo Gore, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you in the studio. Join Ayo and myself, Valentine, next.
The headlines.
Everybody is signing that.
The news.
Why are you laughing?
Everybody was signing, so Nigeria to just sign.
I spoke English.
Can we talk about the stories now? Because some people are still online,
Oh, yeah.
so we can just look at some of the stories.
All right, so luckily, this president. So tell me why you're laughing, because the president has said that Nigeria signed up to this in 2016. His tenure ends 2023. Of course, his tenure ends in 2023. How do you think he's going to ensure continuity in this vision? Are we even tapped into that?
Well, government is actually a continuum. It doesn't matter whether it's him or not. When I read that story last night, I had a discussion with a friend about it, and he sent me a report about the carbon emission, the volume of carbon emission that we generate in Nigeria based on an estimated 6 million diesel generators.
Yeah.
Okay. And both of us we agreed to something that, look, the only way we can reduce that carbon emission is to fix power. We've just spoken about power here now. So what are we doing about fixing our power problems? If we don't fix that, we'll end up still using generators. In fact, generator is a primary source of power for a lot of people in Nigeria today. People are reverting to coal already because can't afford gas right now. You know, people are cutting down trees for firewood right now because they can't afford gas anymore. So what structure, what plan are we going to put on paper or on ground to say, okay, this is where we want to start from? Do we have anything already, or is it after they come back from this Edinburgh meet that will now say we appoint a committee and start planning towards 2060? 2060, 40 years time, some of us won't be here again anyway. So, but it's just that it doesn't look like. You remember when we had Vision 2020?
I want to find out. Is it that they just put up a nice speech?
Yes.
There's what's the plan? You know,
I think everybody was just signing, so we just signed.
Ayo, talking about cutting zero emission by that year is one thing. How do you even get there? First of all, I like that you mentioned power. What is the feasibility of ensuring regular power supply in the next 20 years?
Don't swear for us like
for
that.
Nigeria.
No, there's nothing on ground to suggest that can happen.
Like, what's the
We
are we going to start charging electric cars with generator?
We have examples. We have examples. We have examples to speak to these things. You know, there was a time there was housing for all by the year 2000. It was 30 years.
Sorry, this comment made me laugh. Someone should explain to me how Nigeria will achieve net zero emissions by the next century.
You see?
This country, is the same thing we are doing with vaccine mandates. Follow everywhere.
Everybody was just signing. Everybody was just signing yesterday, and Nigeria to just sign.
But the speech was nice. He gave examples. He said global climate change is real. That everybody can feel, even Nigerians.
Yes, yesterday temperature yesterday was 35 degrees centigrade in Lagos.
Yeah, very far. He said droughts. He says what they call it,
deforestation.
And all that.
Yeah,
I mean,
all those things will happen. But the thing is just that we can't see anything on ground to suggest
we don't have lights.
That we will.
First of all,
NEPA.
I told you how I caught myself taking a picture of a car that was